Prior to his election to the Senate, he served 3 terms in the Ohio House, where he also chaired multiple committees. He has been named Watchdog of the Treasury 5 times and Outstanding Legislator of the Year by the United Conservatives of Ohio. He was also honored with the Guardian of Small Business Award, and he is a partner with Faber and Associates. So help me welcome him.
Thank you. It is truly a pleasure to be here. I want to just start out with a fundamental truism. We are all here representing the party that represents Lincoln and Reagan. Now, unlike our current president, both Lincoln and Reagan were bold visionaries. One of them called America the nation that all other nations should look to. The other, a shining city on a hill. I've never heard anything quite like that from our current president. And that really brings us into the questions that we're getting. And that question is our conservative in the party doomed for oblivion? Have we lost our focus? Or do we just need to do a better job messaging and getting our points across? I say no. I think the discussion and the focus about our party has been in the wrong direction. It is the states that are the laboratories of democracy, not the federal government. When we are given the opportunities to innovate and to make a decision about our own futures, the states almost always find solutions that work better for their residents and better for America as a whole. And that's our discussion. While Congress is getting approval ratings lower than colonoscopies and headlines. And I'm not kidding, those are actual poll results. Congress is lower than colonoscopies and headlines. I said that in a speech with one of the members of our congressional delegation there, and he gave me a funny look, and I said, I didn't make the results up. The states are getting it right. We're seeing changes. We're seeing improvements. Let's just talk about that for a second. Where's Ohio? A couple of years ago, Ohio was facing what everybody recognized was an $8 billion structural deficit. $8 billion. Everybody was saying, what taxes are you going to raise? Because you know you got to raise taxes to balance the budget. We were losing 100,000 jobs each and every year. We had problems on top of problems. And nobody on the other side of the aisle was offering any solutions except more. More money, more taxes, more government, and more imposition on the freedoms of Ohioans. Fast forward. Ohioans in 2010 elected a new governor, John Kasich, a person who's willing to be bold and willing to lead. Ohioans elected Barb and her colleagues back into control of the Ohio House. And Ohioans elected myself and my colleagues to the largest majority in recent history in the Ohio Senate, 23 members. And simply told us to lead, fix it. And we did. Let's just talk about some of the things we did. We took that $8 billion deficit, we solved it without raising taxes. We gave an $800 million income tax cut. We killed the death tax. We did regulatory reform that for the first time requires a cost-benefit analysis of new government regulations and the impact on small businesses. We put in customer service standards on government, and we privatized our bureaucratic Department of Development with a nonprofit, private sector Jobs Ohio, which is making a difference in our ability to grow and create and attract new jobs. Has it worked? Well, let me ask you this question. Has it worked? People are starting to notice Ohio. I was coming back from a flight from Atlanta, actually from the GOPAC conference in Florida, where I stopped in Atlanta on the way back, and the gentleman sitting in the seat next to me, after we did the normal pleasantries that you do with seatmates, and he found out that I was involved in state government, you know what he said? He said, Keith, 5 years ago, Ohio was not in our plans for expansion. In fact, we were looking to move our Ohio operations elsewhere. But I'm literally on this plane today to go to Ohio, to go to Columbus, to talk about how we're going to expand our operations. Something's changed. And that excitement we're seeing all over Ohio government. We went from losing 100,000 jobs a year to creating, and I have to be careful here because I say we created. We really didn't create anything. Government doesn't create jobs. We get the heck out of the way and let the private sector create jobs. And so the private sector in Ohio has created over 120,000 new jobs in that last 2-year period. That's a change. But here's the distinction that we have to be very careful about. Because I've been noticing in the last few months those numbers are going backwards. And why is that? It's the headwinds from our friends in the federal government. We're starting to see that resistance starting to come into our numbers, and I'm almost sure it's happening in all of your states as well. So be careful to make that distinction, because when we get into this next election side, the other side is going to say, something's wrong, something's not happening. You're right, it's Obamacare. You're right, it's all the things you're doing in the federal government, raising taxes, increasing spending, and giving our kids the credit card bill from China. Other things that you're seeing a difference on. I talked to you about the jobs. The fastest way to tell you where we were and where we are is we're in the middle of the budget process. As Barb mentioned earlier, the House will vote on Thursday their version of the budget and send it over to us, where those are the more recent upper chamber, to my Senate colleagues. We'll take our shot at it. Whereas 2 years ago, we were debating how we were going to fill the budget hole and who was going to get cut and whether we were going to raise taxes. We didn't. Now we're talking about completely different things. We're talking about spending another $1 billion plus on K-12 education in Ohio. We're talking about a fully funded rainy day fund, at the same time having more than $400 million in excess additional funding over and above fully funding the rainy day fund. And we're talking about something that I heard my friends from Indiana also talking about. What taxes we're going to cut. And that's one of the exciting debates. We're debating whether the House wants to do a 7% across the board income tax cut, or what I prefer, a 50% small business tax cut to incentivize and grow jobs. Either way, we're talking about a significant tax cut of about $1.5 billion. That's a good discussion to be having. The other things we're talking about are also significant. K-12 education reform, where we're creating a statewide continuation of our voucher program that's going to apply to Catholic schools all over the state, starting in kindergarten and working its way through for poor individuals. You know, rich people shouldn't be the only ones that get to choose where their kids go to school. We're talking about other innovative things, like whether or not we're going to do more tax reform, more tax cuts to try and grow and prosper the state's economy. Higher education reform. This is exciting. For a long time, Ohio education institutions have been rewarded by how many students they have sitting in the seats. Graduation, not a big deal. Course completion, not a big deal. You know what we found? Is that kids that go to college and don't graduate don't get the benefits of their education. I know that's revolutionary for all of you. So why don't we ask and incentivize what we want? Graduation. And so we're doing that. We're looking at course completion, and we're looking at probably the most innovative in the country program that actually rewards and pays higher education based on course completion and graduation rates. And we're looking at doing one other thing, whether or not those graduates stay in Ohio. Because no offense, I'm okay with Ohio State students coming from all over the country. I'm also happier if those Ohio State students stay in Ohio to use their engineering and their science skills. And so that's one of the things we're taking a look at as well. Now, not all the governor's proposals are without controversy. When you got a governor like John Kasich who's willing to lead, sometimes his ideas draw fire. The governor's proposed Medicaid expansion. My guess, if I were betting, is that Medicaid expansion doesn't happen in the budget. For a lot of reasons, the first of which we're not really sure how it's going to work, and we're not really sure that it does work. But let me ask this question. I asked it to a group of doctors 2 Saturdays ago. How many of you in this room, there's a group of the Ohio State Medical Association, 300 doctors, how many of you, if you were designing a healthcare program for the poor, would design our current Medicaid program? Not a single hand went up in the entire room. And so my question was, do you really think it's a good idea to double down and put more money in the current Medicaid system, which we all agree doesn't work as we think it should? It doesn't tie incentives, it doesn't tie compliance, and it doesn't get you where you want to be at the end of the day. And the only way government has to control the current Medicaid system is with provider reimbursements. And everybody knows what that means long term. Less money, less services. So why don't we encourage our friends in the federal government to block grant this money to the states like we've all asked them for years? And let us design programs that actually work for our citizens and actually work to provide the health care that we all think our populations need, want, and desire. So that's the discussion we're having. Now, I'm going to switch to politics for a second. Because we can't get good public policy without good politics. Ohio has been ground zero for national elections ever since I started following politics. And that brings me to a very interesting question. What's happening in Ohio? We saw an interesting distinction this time where the ground game on the other side just beat the snot out of us. The allied liberal organizations, as I lovingly call them, having dealt with them now for a number of years as a legislative leader, have got their stuff together. We seem to spend a lot of time trying to do yesterday's technology. We seem to do a lot of time working on yesterday's messaging. Somebody asked this question earlier today, what happened with Obama for America? Well, they came to Ohio in 2008, and they've never left. I had one of my Senate colleagues telling me the other day that he saw them still going door to door in one of our counties in Ohio. Don't think that they're not in your communities. They are, they're organized, and they have a plan. And if we don't have a plan that counters their plan, we should not expect different results. You know that definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results. So the question that I ask all of you is the question that I've been asking all of our organizations in Ohio. What is our plan to do things differently? Are we going to continue with the same messaging that hasn't seemed to be very effective? Are we going to continue to do the same data vendors? Are we going to continue to send our volunteers door to door with what I used to call the Scantron sheets where you fill in bubbles? And when somebody comes to the door and 5 people live there, you count 5 visits? Or are we going to do the technology that the other side's using? Okay, literally, one of our people moved from southeastern Ohio to Columbus. And within 5 days of him moving his voter registration to Columbus, somebody knocked on his door, came with an iPad. And unlike the questions our volunteers were asking, are you going to vote for Mitt Romney? Are you going to vote for Barack Obama? And do you believe in God, the American flag, and all the other things that we're holding? They're asking questions to get the answers that they really want. What apps do you have on your iPad? What websites do you regularly visit? Questions that they've tested and get results. You know what? Their ground game is beating our ground game. And I hate to say that because without a good ground game, we're not going to be competitive in the long run. So that's the challenge that I give to you and the challenge I've given to my colleagues. Are we willing to believe Ronald Reagan's 11th commandment? Speak no ill of other Republicans. Are we willing to accept his other requirement that says somebody who's with me 80% of the time is my friend? At the same time, are we willing to double down on our core principles that make our party so strong? That's our mission, and that's our message in Ohio. You know, I'm going to end with this. Elections matter. We heard from our friend in Colorado. You hear the agenda items that they're working on? I asked her to send me those, because I'm going to read that in my caucus next time when my colleagues are thinking about whether they're going to knock on that extra set of 500 or 1,000 doors. Elections matter. They have results. We need to take back our message and help convince people that we are the party that has the solutions. And our solutions are simple. You know, the other side talks about how much they care for people. Everybody in this room cares for people. Everybody watching that video cares for people. Everybody in our party cares for people. But the way we care for people is just a little bit different. You see, we're the party that says, and the organization that says, I'd rather teach a man to fish so he can feed his family and others for a lifetime than simply give a man a fish and let him eat for a day. That's how we care for people. Now, the other side just wants to keep giving people fish every single day. We need to make sure that message gets out. And GOPAC and organizations like GOPAC are going to be central to that focus. And so those of you who are here from legislative leadership positions like mine, or those of you who are here as supporters, keep doing what you're doing, because it's working in the states. And we need to just make sure our friends in Congress get that message about what works in the states and give us the flexibility and the autonomy to continue to do things that work. Thanks for having me. I'm happy to answer any questions. If you want to get to some specifics about Ohio, happy to do that. No questions? We'll be around. Thank you.